Today on the CIO Lifeline, we have Geoff Ables, founder and CEO of C5 Insight. We'll let Geoff introduce himself, but he is a powerhouse in the Microsoft community. When you think of CRM, he's now even a co-pilot MVP. He is definitely in the trenches and making it happen. We beat up AI just about every week. But how is it performing for customers in practice? Microsoft can sell the sizzle. Are there any gaps? Stick around. Geoff, good morning. How are you doing?
Morning, Anthony. Good morning, Tom. Great to be here. Doing good this morning.
We always cross paths at Microsoft events, and I got to tell you, when it comes to hospitality and entertaining, you are top shelf. It matches the product and services you bring to the community. But before we dive into that in a very, engaging topic around AI and is it everything Microsoft positions it to be, tell us a little about yourself and your company.
Sure. So I got my start in AI, if you will, way back in the mid 90s when we were doing predictive modeling in the direct marketing industry. So I worked for agencies where we were doing a lot of deep statistical analysis to predict behaviors across customers. Wound up running the division at what is now Wells Fargo that did that, building one of the first multi-terabyte data warehouses in the industry and doing lots of statistical number crunching against that database to do better direct mail targeting and personalization and early stages of AI before we even had this thing called generative AI. So frankly, I was a skeptic up until about 3 years ago when I heard things about AI. I was like, we were doing that years ago. Makes sense in very large companies that can spend a lot of money on it, but don't know if it's really going to be something that's going to change things for everybody as much as some people are hyping up. And then along came ChatGPT and OpenAI and now Copilot. So about 20 years ago, I founded the company I run now, C5 Insight. We're a Microsoft partner, and we work across the Dynamics 365, all the modern work applications, Power Platform. But for the last 3 years, our heaviest investment has been very focused on AI and Copilot.
Well, it's been a hot minute then. You got a good runway for this topic.
We've been at it for a little while. So yeah, we're believers in what it can do, but we're also keenly aware that there is hype out there, right? There's a lot going on in the marketplace it's well-founded hype. If companies are not investing in it, we're seeing them get left behind already. But we're also seeing companies investing in it with expectations that, wow, I played with this. It seems so automatic. Like, we'll just put it out there and it'll start to change things. What I can tell you, my experience with it so far is it is a harder adoption path than almost any preceding technology was. And for whatever reason, all the technologies we do, they're hard to adopt. CRM, hard to adopt. SharePoint, modern work, hard to adopt. AI, even harder.
What do you suppose makes it harder, Geoff?
So what we're seeing are two things. One is the motion is very different, right? It's like the motion on other adoption curves has been, look, there's forms here that I have to fill out to do certain things, and maybe I'm resistant, but I get what's inside this box. With AI, it's almost like you've been given a new assistant. Here's a blank sheet of paper. You're going to have a conversation, and this person's going to help you do things. That's a new motion. Remember to go and ask that assistant for help is different. And what we're actually seeing is leaders and executives are doing a better job with that because they're used to delegation once they embrace it. But rank and file people like salespeople who are on the front lines every day who don't have people reporting to them, if you train them on it, they'll go, I want this, I need this, this is a game changer. When you let it go and don't focus on, but what are the real use cases that are going to drive value for you as a sales rep, they just drift away, right? They know there's value there. They don't know how to tap into the value, and they're struggling with that.
Well, we always talk about change management, user adoption. There is a psychology side to this. So it's an interesting point you bring. But you had a couple themes there that stuck out to me when you were, winding this up. First, there is recognition that this technology is here to stay. You said you're seeing customers that are already behind competitively. So I think whether you're a skeptic or not, you got to get past that, back to the emotion, psychology side of things, because this isn't going anywhere. And I always call it the freight train. And we're seeing it too with our clients and the competitors that go up against our clients. Look, get past that, I don't know, I don't want this, and this isn't all it's caked up. I mean, you have to embrace it. You just have to embrace it. Another point that stuck out was this is hard. Like we have clients that are like, they believe in the concept, they're all in, but then it's time to roll up your sleeves and actually put it to use. And we'll say Business Central is a great example, or Dynamics CRM. Maybe you can talk about in practice, is it plug and play? Can you drop it in and do the systems talk to each other? Maybe dive into that a little bit.
So, I mean, the answer is always yes and no to that. So the nice thing about the Microsoft stack, the Microsoft ecosystem of products is, by and large, they have some integration straight out of the box, right? So if you say, look, I want to take some baby steps into Copilot, I want to start using AI with the tools I'm using. First of all, Microsoft's building it into every single tool. So as long as you get the right licensing, AI is there and available. But they're also building an integration across those tools. So if you're using Copilot inside of Microsoft 365, again, assuming you have the right licensing, you can actually bring Dynamics data directly into your inquiries, into your chats, into your prompts directly within there. You need to make sure that the setup is right to make those things work. Now, if you want deep integration, if you want it to work specifically on the way you've set things up, and the use cases are very, very specific to your organization, that's going to take some maker skills, right? Microsoft can't make theirs so generic, or at least they haven't yet, that it can just read the custom things you've done with the data and the custom things you've done with how you explain fields. You need to think about that, or your custom business processes. And is that important? Well, if those things are important differentiators for your business, then they're going to be important differentiators for how your business applies AI to what it's doing.
Geoff, that's interesting. I was just having a conversation with a CEO, and he said, what's the first step? And I said, the first step's a little boring, but it's critical. I'm like, we have to flowchart everything. And he kind of rolled his eyes. And so I'm interested in your reaction, but I'm like, look, if we're just trying to automate things and determine decision trees, if we don't want this AI hallucinating and making up the next step on its own, we better draw a roadmap for it.
Yeah, and that's part of the sizzle I was referring to earlier, because there is a concept that, well, AI will just do it. Well, how do AI will just do it. But there is a methodical preparation set of steps that have to go before you start seeing these benefits.
And you guys are experiencing this too, right? Because of the way AI is presented, you're exactly right, Anthony. There's this expectation of, oh, look, I can ask that thing anything, and it will give me the answer, or it will even maybe take action on my part. But when you go into it with expectations that big, and you go, I can't create the prompt that does this. You're right, you can't, because you need to map out exactly where you're going with this, what your use cases are. And Tom, to your point, also, your data is aligned well. I mean, not only will AI potentially imagine answers if you're not careful, and that's partly how you train the AI, that's partly how you train your users, but it's significantly where you're pointing the data for AI to get the information it's going to use to have those prompts with you, to take those actions for you. Tom, to your point, the way I try to explain it to executives is, look, there are two wrong ways to do this, and there's one right way. The wrong way is aim and take way too long to aim. You'll eventually get there. If you start by planning only, start by taking aim, you'll eventually get there, but it's going to be a long process, but it's an important step. Or the other wrong way to do it is fire. And that's where a lot of businesses are misfiring right now. Anthony, to your point, it's sort of like, look, we can see this works right out of the box. Like, we'll just turn it on, give some people some training and get going with it. There's a lot of excitement and vision building when you do that, and it never sticks because it's actually something that doesn't fit into the flow of what people are doing, and it's not trained on your custom data, and it's not aligned with your security protocols because you haven't taken aim. So what we tell executives is it's fire, aim, ready, fire. You need to go through that. So build some vision up front, play with it, get engaged a little bit. You need to play with it a little bit to understand what you're dealing with, but know that you've got some planning to come to next. And if you don't do both of those things, you're going to be off track.
You articulate that so well. I like to refer to the fall forward. I think this is a tech, like if you try to be buttoned up and have every I dotted and every T crossed, forget it. I mean, everybody's going to surpass you in 3 seconds. And so there has to be a sense of, well, what's the end zone? We'll figure it out as we go. I mean, we can talk in generalities, but if you're very meticulous and got to have everything checked off, this could be a little bit painful.
Well, and the other thing you mentioned that was an education for me. I was working with Frederick Nicholas, and he was explaining the sales agent that Microsoft released for Business Central, and you talk about prompting. And so for any of the Dynamics users out there that have seen this agent, that's actually 11 different highly complicated prompts. That's not a single prompt that generated that agent. And that's when my head went, oh, this is a much more complicated thing to build if we want the level of automation that I think users are kind of envisioning.
You all, I think, are stronger on the BC world than I am, so I won't comment on that, but we spend a lot of time on the Dynamics sales, Dynamics customer engagement side of the formula. Same kinds of things over there. Look, the Copilot for sales, very, very powerful, can be very helpful. I'm working in a lot of different scenarios. What we are seeing is, because every organization's processes are different, and most organizations have even configured their systems differently, because they're doing different things with them, it's very challenging for Microsoft to say, here's an agent that will do exactly what your sales team needs it to do. So what we're seeing with those agents for now is they're enlightening, they're visionary, maybe for some very straightforward businesses, they're a fit. But for our clients, and even for our own internal usage, we're developing our own agents. And with tools like Copilot Studio, you can do that. I believe, I don't know, this is all evolving so rapidly, but I believe one of the most important cultural shifts executives need to be thinking about is not how do I embrace AI and prompting as part of AI, but how do I create a culture of makers? How do I create a culture where I'm enabling and empowering perhaps not everybody in the entire organization, but more than just a small group of people in IT also, to actually be able to make their own AIs, make their own copilots to fulfill their own specific business use cases.
Because I've always picked on Microsoft a little bit when it comes to their connectors and being aware of other products in their universe. I'm going through another frustration with Power Apps and how it integrates with iOS compared to Android, blah, blah, blah.
I feel your pain.
Yep. But Copilot now, so you're giving a Copilot solution. The customer uses Business Central. You're helping them with Power Platform, Viva, CRM. Is it aware of its own product line?
Not by itself, no, I guess is the easy answer, right? It's sort of like, let's go back to a very baseline that we can all relate to, and that is there's this underlying assumption that, hey, we're going to use Dynamics CRM, and we've got Dynamics BC. They're aware of each other and communicate with each other, right? And the answer is no, not automatically. Well, there's a connector, right? And we just turn on the connector and that does everything we want. Well, maybe if you're doing things mostly out of the box, but probably not, right? Almost, I would say 9 times out of 9, it actually requires a lot of TLC. And in fact, Microsoft's connector isn't necessarily the best connector to use to make those things happen. And the same thing is true with Copilot. So yes, if you look at some of the marketing material and stuff like that, all of these systems can talk. And yes, to some extent, some of that can be turned on without a lot of effort. But in reality, it takes some more effort. Giving you a more specific use case, for a client right now, they have that exact scenario where they said, look, we have agents in the field, and these are outside sales reps, not outside like third party, but just field sales reps. They're in the field all the time. They need to spend at least 4 days a week face-to-face with clients, making client calls. They're horrible at scheduling those visits. It's very ad hoc. They're even worse at taking notes and putting those in the CRM system after those visits.
Have you been following me
around? I mean, right? It's a common thing we all have, right? Way of getting our people-facing work done. So what we're putting in place for them is a way, first of all, to prepare. And to prepare, they need to know all about that client. And they don't need to be opening up their ERP system and their CRM system and putting data together for those things. And even though those systems are integrated, it's a lot of clicks to go around and look everywhere to see what you need to do. So instead, they go, Tell me who I should visit this week. Here's who you should visit. I've put it in your calendar for you. I'm on my way to go see this customer. Tell me about them. I'm telling you what the script is, and I'm not telling you what they type. I'm telling you in the car, on the way to the client, they click the app and they say, I'm on my way to see this first client. Tell me about them. Verbally tells them all about them. Do you want those notes over here in Copilot so you can read them too? Great, I can do that for you as well. I leave the client at the end of the meeting. Take my meeting notes for me. Tell me what they are. I dictate the notes. At the end of the notes, they're fully transcribed. They're placed in the meeting. They're summarized, placed in the meeting for quick access and for access to AI in the future. And the things you need to do next are automatically prompted to you so you can go add these two to CRM and update these two records for me.
Well, and I love the concept you gave about, what's practical for the reps. I mean, here's another, so I'll expand on that a little bit because it is an agent concept that we've been actively exploring. I'm going to see so-and-so customer, tell me about him or her. Well, so everything you said holds true, but yeah, so they've had three complaints about this product over the last 90 days. They're 45 days past due on ... everything. It's just armed with info and intel walking in. I can't imagine any rep that would go against the grain on that. I mean, CRM is tough adoption. People, do you want me entering in data or driving business? That's always one of the excuses.
Get the out of here.
But to help save time on the research and some of the things and never let them forget.
It won me over. I forget who, it might have been you, Geoff, that said, hey, try this. But I started trying it and talking to it in the car. And I have to, okay, I'm going to give you a great example. So I was preparing for something about 3 weeks ago. And I said, here's the person I'm going to meet. It was a big proposal, right? And it came back and it said, okay, based on what you've told me about this person, here's the recommended presentation that I would make, the pitch. And two of the items I was a little uncomfortable with. I'm like, that wouldn't have been the way I might have handled the conversation, but I did it just the way it said because it wasn't out of total left field. And the prospect literally lit up when I hit the second, and they're like, that's exactly what we're looking for. And they signed up.
Yeah, that's great. It's like that's just your talking partner, right? Like, let me give you my pitch. Give me some feedback on my pitch. Yeah.
I said,
and you have to push it, right? You need to say, give me real feedback because for whatever reason, AI is programmed to be positive. So it's always like, you're a great guy, Geoff. Right. Like, you're doing good. Like, okay, great. But now tell me, like, give me your top 5 ways I can improve.
That's what I said. I said, this is it. Here's the presentation I'm planning on making. Critique this from the customer's perspective. It was amazing.
And when you show that scenario to an executive, I don't care who they are, if they're willing to listen, that's where their eyes also light up because it becomes very clear, wait, I'm not just typing and it's responding. It's not even just doing tasks for me. I'm talking, it's hearing, it's talking, I'm hearing. And what role, and by the way, can even see what's around me, right? I mean, not perfect yet, but the technology's there and it will be there everywhere. If you're on a manufacturing floor, if you're driving a garbage truck, if you're in an executive suite, if you're in an operating room, every one of those has applications for AI. But Tony, to your point also, that's still not enough. Even if you do all that, you're right. The automation, the stuff that's going to like do things across our organization is really, really important. And I think part of it is it's going to be hard for anybody to deliver that. It'll probably come someday.
Trust me, I am an optimist. I'm just emphasizing that it is hard work. So all the solutions we're proposing, we can get there, but it's going to take time. Now, where I will give Microsoft credit in today's state, I know the end state's going to be utopia. Trust me. I got religion on that. But with today's
You're
state...
more optimistic than I am.
Well, but today, here's where I give them credit. I don't think you get hallucinations. With the guardrails and the prompt specificity to get results, it's either gonna, I don't know, or it's gonna give you the facts within your org's data set. I believe.
Yeah, I think it is tightening. It might almost be too tight. I mean, I think that's one of the differences between ChatGPT and Microsoft is Microsoft has to protect the reputation, be super secure, probably also protect themselves from a legal and compliance
and
standpoint.
And be accurate, right? I mean, so...
Yeah, to the extent that sometimes you're accurate to the loss of creativity, to the loss of some of the substance that you want.
But this is why I believe they are purposeful in some of the things they restricted, but it's all good. It is all good.
So let me share two case studies out there that I think go the direction we're going with the conversation. One is it's just one we're doing ourselves internally, but it applies universally. And it's something that Microsoft says they're rolling out. We haven't tested it. So maybe theirs will be like, oh, get rid of ours that we use internally. But like every other organization in the world, we generate a lot of leads. But in the midst of that, there's a lot of work that sales has to do with those leads. And it's a massive headache, right? Some of our leads we generate are like 1 out of 100 is even worth following up with, right? But you got to wade through the other 99 to find the one that you want to work with. Some of them are complete spam. So we use Copilot Studio and we set up a very basic agent to say, how do we look at spam? They're always putting something in the comment field about, do you want cleaning services or do you want to buy a list or whatever? So we just said, hey, Studio, when a new lead comes in, look at it. And if it looks like spam, and we didn't give it many rules. We just said, look at this description field. Here's a couple of things we know look like spam. Check the email address. If it's free, that's kind of another leading indicator. It might be spam. Flag it as spam and disqualify it immediately. Just send somebody an alert saying, I disqualified this one just in case you need to QA it to be sure. Those spam leads are no more. It's almost perfectly accurate 100% of the time.
What a great use case, man. What a great use case.
You also, you never ask people for their website URL, but every salesperson looks at the email address. You got to key the stupid thing in because you want the web URL to look at the website. Super simple for Copilot. Like, hey, if the website is blank when it gets created, look at the email. If it's not a free email address, put the website in the field for me. Boom, done. We never type that in anymore. By the way, and this is one of the use cases people aren't looking at, without connecting to any third-party data source, which would be much more powerful, and I think Microsoft's agents are going to try to do. We just said, hey, now crawl the website. If there's no address on this field, crawl the website, fill in that other information.
Oh my God, I was just sitting here wishing you would do that. Oh, I'm so happy.
So, we've got tools in there where you can click to go get the third-party data and bring it in. But when you got 100 leads you're trying to go through after an event, that motion takes a lot of freaking time to do.
And, you touched on something just briefly. And so, if you're a listener, if you don't have some form of a partner, reach out to Geoff at C5, reach out to VCIO Global. But when you hear prompt engineering, when you hear I need to train my agent or tune my agent, this is not code you're writing in most cases. It means you're uploading a document that more precisely defines the right answer or the outcome you're seeking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, in some cases, it might be code that's getting written, but you don't even see it. Like it's taking care of a lot of it behind the scenes. There's different tiers you can go through, right? So yes, you can do real hardcore coding to tailor your copilots if you want to, but a huge amount, that first 80% of the value you're going to get, it's really just, it's technically literate people who just understand process, not necessarily development, who can do a lot of the work on this. They just need the right training.
What do you think about the, I thought you were gonna say the word license again, because in one of the segments that I heard you say license 3 times. How do companies what does this mean just from the setup side of things? Because companies just can't sit down and get at it, right? There's a little bit of prep and setup with their Microsoft partner. So what are the different tools and features that need to be in play?
So, the first thing I would do is go back to what Tom said earlier too. The easy part is getting the tools, right? Getting the licensing, whatever that looks like. The hard part is doing the hard work, which is drudgery hard work. It's not the fun stuff, but it's like if you have a bad foundation, if you don't map your processes, if you don't know how all your data is going to be clean, secure, and aligned to what you're doing, and you don't have a plan for driving continuous change and adoption, you're going to fail. So yes, you do need to work with your partner, with Microsoft, with your IT department, whoever it is, to figure out where are we going with Copilot and how do we need to set this up within our organization, right? Are we starting with the free Copilot chat stuff that's just available in Teams if we've already got Microsoft 365? Do we want Microsoft 365 Copilot that interacts with our SharePoint and email and other Microsoft data, lets us record and transcribe Teams meetings and those kinds of things? Are we using BC? Are we using CRM? Do we want the Copilots that come along with those? Do we want to enable makers? Do we need Copilot Studio for them? Do we have developers and we need GitHub or Azure AI Foundry Copilot? So I know this is sounding like a lot. It is. You need to talk to somebody who understands where are you going and what do you need to do to get all those things set up. The licensing part, the setup part of it is not hard once you get your head around it, but for the uninitiated, it can be a little overwhelming.
So you're clearly a partner to have a conversation like that with, because it can feel overwhelming. You just don't sit down and throw a Copilot, in Teams, and now you're going to conquer the world. There is planning, there is process, and that reality conversation, I think, helps reset the bar, and then the magic starts to happen. Geoff, thanks for the case study examples and helping companies and individuals who are interested in trying to figure out how their journey is going to start and what really has to go into the planning side, because it isn't magic. There's magical elements to AI, of course, but the planning is purposeful, it is thoughtful, and it does take some effort. Always great to catch up with you. Looking forward to the next time we cross paths.
Geoff, always great to have you on, and I'll look forward to continuing our conversation in another episode.
We love partnering with you guys. It's been a great journey with you. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks again.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
But you had a couple themes there that stuck out to me when you were, winding this up. Now, give me a minute. I got to think of the two. One was...
We talked about the frontline use cases for the frontline sales reps, I think is a good place to go potentially.
Yep. And then, but it is harder. Okay.
Business Central is one we run into most often. F&O second most often, but there's many ERPs out there, and we've integrated with many of them.
All right, so I'm kind of softballing you here on the setup. But now you're in the throes of Copilot and have been,
Tony, I just told you we closed a deal. Are you never happy?
Well, I'm just saying, man, like ChatGPT, I have a great conversation with. Copilot, I'm sitting there like I'm talking to my, half-wit uncle or
I
some
love
shit.
it. Tony, you're our designated ass kicker. We need that right now.
Yeah, I mean, they have the tool to do
I agree.
it.